So, Nick, we're going to change it up and have you come up
I always
first.
try to be respectful and let the ladies go first. Do you want me to go first this time?
Yeah, let's change it up a little bit. Just keep it interesting,
All right, the
right?
ladies want me to go first this time. Okay. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming out and spending your time on a Saturday to listen to politics in the local county. I know an awful lot of you in the room, but I've been your coroner now for my 16th year, and I am running again. This position is something that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but everyone needs to know about and deal with. So what we want everyone to know is in our office, we're really open to the public. We've established a lot of programs like our care team that is 17 of the best volunteers that you've ever heard of in your life. We come out when, unfortunately, you suffer a death and support the families and the friends and survivors through that period of time. And that's one of the things we're proudest of in our office. We're an open book. You can go on the website and read about deaths in Park County, what's going on in the annual report. You can call and ask questions. We frequently get people who ask questions about older cases. A lot of public records requests for older cases. And then a lot of questions about, hey, my loved one died in Texas, and this report says this, but no one will tell me what that means. And so we get a lot of calls like that from our citizens too. So we try to help out wherever we can. As far as a coroner's office is structured, a lot of people don't know. They just think it's somebody comes and gets the decedent. But essentially what it is it is your death investigator. We are responsible for conducting a death investigation. We are responsible for determining cause and manner of death. We're responsible for positive identification of the deceased and notifying the next of kin. So people say, well, how do you become a coroner? Where does that come from? Is there a college degree in this, right? And the short answer is it's pretty much a jack of all trades because people die in every possible way you can imagine. So the basis in my office is a medical background. Having somebody who's got that medical basis to build from into the investigative basis. But when it comes to like certification, everyone knows in the sheriff's office that post-certification is that certification you get to become a cop, right? But in the coroner's office, they don't understand that as well. So there's 3 different certification levels in the coroner's office for death investigation. There's the state certification, which again, if you've heard me speak before, you've all heard me, it's a joke. It's a laughable certification. And then there are 2 national certifications higher. The American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigation has the registry level and then the board certification level. The registry level is what everyone in my office who works for me has to obtain relating to this hire. So they have gone through a large criteria of sign-off and checklists to make sure they have the experience. They have actually shown themselves proficient in all these categories, over 300 categories that they have to show proficient in. And then they are able to sit for national tests to get that certification. So it's a long, lengthy process. And then there's board certification, which is years later after that, in certain degrees and stuff, you can go and try for a board test and sit for your boards. So that's something I have in my office, but all of my staff has their certificates. So we're all certified to a higher standard required in Colorado. Because I feel it's not about what is the minimum, it's about what's the best. And in that process, we went out and got fully accredited starting in 2015. So in 2015, for years, we worked towards the goal of accreditation. You know what accreditation is? Anybody ever work for a hospital in the room? You know what JCO is? It's a way to determine and make sure that that you're doing things to the national standard, and that's the accreditation we then got accredited. So we could say, we didn't judge ourselves. Anyone can get up here and say they're the best they are, but how do you judge that? So we went and got judged by somebody outside so we could show them how we're doing work for you guys and call it accreditation. So, any questions for me anytime? We're an open book. Reach out anytime. Thank you guys for being here.
All right, we're going to just hold off for a minute to let's get chairs set up. Are you going to get another stack?
You need more?
I think we're okay.
You okay? All right. Next up, Jamie.
Hello, and as Dave said, thanks for coming out on a Saturday afternoon. I hope everybody had a good morning. I am Amy Flint. I have been your treasurer for the last 3.5 years, and I am running unopposed on the primary and would appreciate your support in the general election. First 3.5 years have been a lot of learning, a lot of growing, and I feel like we're doing well in the department. My next 4 years, if I get elected, I would focus on public education, personal education, so within the office also, cross-training within the office. But I'd like to get out and get the information of what we do and what our department does to serve the communities publicly. Dave and I have talked, and he said in the past, he and Michelle joked about doing death and taxes. And we might do that. We might do some forums about death and taxes, and maybe invite Mel and Monica to join in and just get that public information out there, because I don't think everybody knows what we do. In a nutshell, what the Treasurer's Office does is we collect the taxes. So the assessor calculates, gets all the data in order, and then sends it down to us. We send the tax notice out, and then we collect the taxes. That takes us 6 months of the year. And then the other 6 months of the year, we are collecting delinquent taxes. And we are working the tax lien sale. So working on collecting those taxes. We are also the public trustee. The public trustee is responsible for foreclosures. We process the foreclosures for the lender who goes through a attorney, and then we as the public trustee make sure everything's in order and run the sale. We also process deeds of trust. So a release of deed of trust happens when somebody pays off their mortgage, or the mortgage gets paid off through a sale, more likely. And we process those, make sure everything's in order, send it to the clerk and recorder, and that gets recorded. In between, we also, excuse me, we are the banker for the county, and so we collect the deposits from the other departments, bank them, and do the balancing of the accounts. Thanks for being here, you guys.
Mel Castle.
Hi, I'm Mel Castle. I have been your clerk and recorder since October 22. My department has several departments. We have motor vehicle, which I'm sure all of you have participated in renewing your license plates or getting new license plates. I have a satellite office in Bailey, and I have the office in Fairplay. We also do recording. We record plats, surveys, any kind of documents that we want the world to know about. Then we have elections. All the ballots dropped on Monday. We had judges training last Saturday. I don't see any familiar faces in here, but those that have participated, I really appreciate it, because our election could not happen without judges. The judges are the ones that make the election happen. Staff, we just observe. So I really want to thank everyone that has participated in any election, and I hope that I can have your support for the next 4 years. Thank you.
All right. We're going to start with the sheriff candidates because we got a lot more questions for them than we did for the other candidates. So, yes. So we're going to start with just at the end of the table. We'll have Ahmed and Steve, and then we'll go down and let Wally and Cindy intro, and then we're going to direct multiple questions to sheriff candidates.
Hi everybody, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate you taking time to be here and meet our candidates. My name is Ahmed Sissik. I'm running for your Park County Sheriff this year. A little bit about myself. 24 years in law enforcement, worked myself through the ranks. Currently working in the Summit County Sheriff's Office as an operations sergeant. More than anything, my wife and I, we moved here in 2012. We raised out 3 boys. They all graduated from the South Park High School, so go girls. on this side. So I will focus my campaign, and my main focus is going to be on recruitment, retention, fiscal responsibility, and the taboo everywhere here is mental health. So I've been a patrol officer, training officer, sergeant. I was a chief that started Blue River Police Department back in 2017, and it's a small department in Summit County. Coming from that environment, it's kind of similar to Park County. We were the only jurisdiction that didn't have any business in it, so most of our funding came through the property tax. So we have to be really cautious with how we're going to spend money. The budget was tight. From the ground up, there was no administration, there was no records. Policy and procedures, they needed to be updated, so I've done everything. So it was hard, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot from the administrative position. I transitioned to Summit County in 2022 after 5 years in Blue River. They needed help, and I started as a deputy. Shortly thereafter, I was promoted to the operations sergeant, so I'm in charge of the shift, and I am the supervisor for the power shift. So those are the night owl guys, the gals, they go out and on some very serious calls. It's very, very busy agency. If you've never been to Summit County, we swell to, on the weekends or busy season, between 150 to 200,000 people. It's a ski resorts community, so mountain policing is at its best. There is no front range policing up there, so you have to adjust your policing to your residents, visitors like. And I was tasked with, while at the Sheriff's Office, I was tasked to go down to mental health corresponding unit and supervise a couple of those units. We were going through some rough time. It was challenging, but it opened my eyes what we are dealing with. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that every call that we go to has some mental health or substance abuse nexus to it. So having those deputies trained, it was my priority. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out here to spend your Saturday with us. I see a lot of familiar faces. A lot of you have been to one of these forums or multiple of these forums, so I'm not going to say the same thing that I have previously when I stood up here to talk to you. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, though, and I'll start off with I'm a husband, I'm a father, and earlier today I got to watch my boys play together for the first time, high school basketball games together, 3 games this afternoon, which was a really cool experience as a parent. I'm also a coach. I'm a Colorado native. I was born down in Englewood, Colorado. I've lived most of my life here in and around Park County, and that's kind of what I'm going to focus my introduction on today. So we are in my precinct here in this building. This is where we do our local Republican Party stuff for Precinct 4. I've been in this building for VFW breakfasts over the years. My wife and I actually 20 years ago had our rehearsal dinner in this building. And so there were a lot more smiling faces that day than there are right now. But just that, to kind of give you the ideas of the ties that I have to our community here in Park County. I've been in law enforcement for the last 22 years. I've had all sorts of different roles along the way, starting at the bottom as a detention deputy, and now I am currently your undersheriff here with the Park County Sheriff's Office. And as your undersheriff, some of the things that I do on a daily basis, you might see me out patrolling your neighborhood, you might see me out on a traffic stop, and before anybody asks, that's what happened to my forehead on Monday. I made a traffic stop on a tandem dump truck, and as I climbed up to contact the driver, I did not see the bracket holding the side mirror, and well, this is the result of that. So, one of the other things, I spent a lot of time across the highway from us here at the Platte Canyon School District. When the SROs need a day off for training, or they're sick, or in the times in the last 7.5 years when we haven't had an SRO, I've worked out of that building over there, and that's something that is really important to me, as I'm sure it is to all of you, the safety of our young people. They're the next generation, and so that's important to me. I've directly worked in or supervised every division within the Park County Sheriff's Office, and I think Park County is a strange place. It's big, it's made up of multiple communities that are similar, but they're also very dissimilar to one another. And so without intricate and knowledge of our county, it's a difficult place to work, especially in law enforcement. So again, I'm Steve Spodiak. I'm currently your undersheriff, and I'm ready to be your sheriff today. I'm ready to be your sheriff tomorrow, and I'm ready to be your sheriff with your support starting in January of 2027. Thank you.
Good timing. Thank you. All right, this is a question for sheriff candidates. And, oh. Yeah, we'll do the intro. Sorry, we've got so many questions for them. I'm trying to make sure we get through them. Go ahead, Wally.
All right. Hey everybody, my name is Wally Weld, running for Commissioner District 3. I have three things that I bank my Republican conservative values on. The first thing is limited government. I think we've got plenty of that. Limited laws, we've got a ton of those. If we just use the ones we have, I think we're going to be much better off than spending a bunch of time developing more things that, in my opinion, aren't necessary. And second is personal responsibility. And that's why you folks are here right now, and I thank you for that. Being personally responsible to come in, look at the candidates, find out who we are, and how you want to vote. So that's awesome. And the third thing is limited taxes. I am not a tax and spend guy. I believe that the life you trade for the money you make belongs to you. Doesn't belong to me. Doesn't belong to anybody in this room. And it certainly doesn't belong to the Democrats who think they can spend it better than we can. Absolutely not. I purchased a home up here in 1998. I've been a full-time resident for the last 3 years. I've umpired high school baseball and softball here for about 30 years. Been a high school football referee for about 25 years. And it's pretty exciting to be up here finally full-time. And I look forward to finishing it out here as your commissioner in District 3. Wally Wells, and I'm asking for your vote. Thank you very much.
Cindy.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming and sharing your Saturday afternoon with us. I am a Republican. I've been a Republican since 1980, and I'm running for county assessor. I am not a public speaker. My nerves are shot already, but I am a math and data person. I have a degree in accounting, and after I got that degree, I went into banking, where I was a trust auditor for about 4 years. After that, I went to work for Federal Services, which was one of the Baby Bells offshoots. It was with U.S. West back then, and it was a division, and I wrote multi-million-dollar contracts. I did the data, it wasn't really data input, I had to write the programs back then. If you'll remember, in the 80s, we didn't have computer programs. So we bought MacBooks that held about 2,000 bytes, so to speak, 2,000 K, and so we had to buy multiple ones of those to even finish these bids. But I wrote them for Hanford and Los Alamos Labs, and we won both those contracts. I've been a customer service individual at American Airlines for the Admirals Club. I spent about 10 years doing that, so I know how to work with all of you in a one-on-one basis. I know what it's like when people come in frustrated with not being able to catch their plane, and I know what it's like to come in frustrated not knowing why you're getting taxed this amount or why your property is being assessed at a certain value. So I'm great with people one-on-one. I also was a site supervisor for commercial contractors, they went under, but I did 7-Elevens and strip malls for them and supervised all the building those particular developments in Denver area, 88th in Colorado, and several places in Aurora and various other things. I've also owned my own businesses. I worked in an art and engineering firm that I was co-owner of, and then I also owned my own handyman business, so I'm very familiar with buildings. And I've also been a realtor for 12 years. The reason I want this job is I want to have a department of happy, educated employees. For the Colorado's real estate appraisers, they are supposed to be trained within 2 years of coming into that department. And I'll finish this later. Thank you.
All right, now we get to the questions. All right, since Ahmet went first as intro, Steve will have you go first. And this one is for both candidates. CBI and FBI reports have not been filed since 2019 and have recently been started as of May of this year. Directed at Steve, why has the current administration not been reporting? And for Ahmet, in your current department, have you been reporting and why? Thank you.
Okay, well, that question had a statement in it that I guess I will start off with addressing. Yes, we're talking about the Uniform Crime Report here. And this is data that's gathered for law enforcement agencies all over the country that here in Colorado goes to CBI and then to the FBI ultimately. So this became a requirement, I believe, in 2024. The record management system that the Sheriff's Office uses was purchased in 2019. So it's a relatively new system, and we were told by the vendor of that system that you guys are good. Our system can automatically upload your crime data to the state of Colorado through CBI. So, unbeknownst to us, we thought that our statistics were being uploaded. We were mistaken, and that's something that we should have caught earlier, because that did put the Sheriff's Office in jeopardy of not being able to be eligible for certain grants. Now, that didn't end up being the case because we hadn't applied for any grants that would have been a requirement for, but nonetheless, it's something that required by law we should have done. That has been rectified. And the way that we rectified this, once we found out that we had an issue here and we weren't reporting, is we have a person who is manually entering that data. And so from March of this year going forward, our crime statistics are being accurately reported as they are supposed to be. It takes a little bit longer than it would if our records management system would do it like we thought it would, but that's not the boat that we're in. We've taken corrective action, and unfortunately we can't afford to purchase another new record management system that would make this process a lot easier for us. So the Sheriff's Office evidence technician is what his title is, so he's the one who's responsible for evidence that is collected in relation to crimes, is the one who is manually inputting that data for us.
Well, I'm kind of piggybacking on Steve's statement here. The mandate came out in November of 2021, and it's mandating every law enforcement agency, including tribal police in the United States, to report UCRs, Uniform Crime Reporting, and it gets processed by CBI, and it ends up in the FBI's hands on the end. Why is this important? It's important because if you're writing grants, this is how you're going to get judged. You have to justify what you're doing. Why do you need money for the grants? And it goes hand in hand with the reporting of uniform crime reporting. So we do it. I've done it in Blue River, and I didn't have records. Like I said, I didn't have administration, so I had to learn the hard way. At that time, my record management system didn't collaborate with the CBI. So CBI offers a portal, like Steve said, and you enter manually. So those reports are due every month, and they have to be submitted every month. Every 3 months or a quarter, if you're not submitting, CBI would send you a message, or they will send you a certificate saying, attaboy, you submitted your UCRs and there's no errors on it. So that's how you know if you're submitting it or not. Current agency where I work, I think we are at $3.5 million in grants. So they are directly related to uniform crime reporting, and that's why this is important. So in addition to UCRs, you know, it's not as easy as it sounds, because you have to make sure your reports are error-free. And if they're not error-free, like I said, you would get that nasty message from the CBI. The nice thing, what I have discovered, if you call CBI, they would dedicate a person to you to help you with entering those crime stats. Thank you.
So I think I answered the question, and I hope for those of you that have been to these forums, that's something that I've tried really hard to do, is answer the questions as they are asked. I don't have anything to hide, and so I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm not going to give you answers that I think that you want to hear. I'm going to be honest with you, and you're going to get a genuine version of me and what I think and what my views are as they relate to law enforcement and public safety here. So yeah, I look forward to the rest of the questions.
And I'm just going to add UCRs. Dual control is very important. So you have the person who is entering that, then you have to have a supervisor. You have to have a system in place, so if something goes wrong, some person goes on a vacation or whatever, we cannot depend only on one person. So I think cross-training with the administration stuff would help Sheriff's Office. It would definitely lower the error margin, and it would lower time that we're submitting those UCRs. Thank you.
All right, next question, and this one is for Ahmed to start with. The governor signed House Bill 26-1126. Will you enforce it? If not, what will you do?
Well, yesterday I attended a public announcement of a lawsuit regarding this House bill. So the House bill is written basically on, in my opinion, violation of constitutional rights, specifically the Fourth Amendment, which gives every peace officer in the state of Colorado right to go in any gun store, any FFL dealer, and pull the list of all the people who are or who have purchased any firearms. In my opinion, this is a clear violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. I mean, to be able to pull records if you're doing investigation, you have to have a probable cause. You have to have some kind of reasonable articulation to go in and say, hey, I want to see those records. So how am I going to proceed on it? I will do what I've done my entire career. If you're investigating something, we will be submitting warrants to our judges. Once we secure the warrant, then we can get into those records. But going without a warrant, just on a hunch, I think it's very wrong. It's violation of our constitutional rights, like I said, and I think that law enforcement agency, we hold ourselves to the highest standards, whether it's that ethical standards or whatever it might be. We should be following the law, and we do investigations every day. So if I'm gonna secure evidence or whatever, I better have a warrant signed by the judge, which gives me an authorization to go through personal files and create or support my case that I'm investigating. Thank you.
So I'm going to give you a little quote here, and it's not something that I personally heard, but it's something that I heard through another person that a young man said that I think applies to this, and that was, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. And so how that ties into the question here with this House bill is, even though it's legal, doesn't mean that you have to go about doing things in a way that maybe you think isn't legal. And so the search warrant aspect of this is probably the right answer here. Just because this House bill has been passed and now the law allows law enforcement to go into gun stores or to FFLs and look at their records, it doesn't mean that they should. And that is going to be up to the determination of the head of an organization. And so if we need these records for a criminal investigation and we have probable cause that these records would lead us to either information or evidence of a crime being committed, then a search warrant would be sought in order to obtain that information. Not just going in and getting it just because the law says that we can. Now, on the unconstitutional side of this, I've talked about this before. I don't believe that is law enforcement's role in our system to determine whether things are unconstitutional or not. We have a three-branch system of government here, and we have a branch of government that it is their responsibility to make those types of determinations. Those are the courts. We have the legislation to pass the laws, which is what we have here. That's been done. We have the executive branch who executes the laws, and then we have the courts who make rulings on the laws. And until we have rulings on this and on Senate Bill 3, I don't know that we can say that they're unconstitutional, even though personally we may believe that.
Well, when it comes to the Constitution, I can tell you one thing. As a sheriff, you have to have a policy in place. We cannot violate your rights. Those are your constitutional rights. Those are the rights. They're supreme law in this country. I will not say that it's right what the Golden Dome is doing down in Denver, but having a sheriff who is willing to step up and say, this is the procedure we're going to follow, regardless what that Senate bill says. And that means if we have evidence of the crime, we're still going to secure the warrant and we go pursue the right way to go about it. Thank you.
So I don't think that we really disagree here, and I'm pleased to hear that. So to use the rest of my time here, one of the things that I plan on doing as your sheriff is spending more time down at the Capitol, working with the county sheriffs of Colorado and other lobbying organizations to lobby for you all. Because the sheriff of Park County is for all of you, everyone in this room, everyone that lives within this county. And you need to be heard. And that's something that we haven't had a lot of here lately, but it's definitely something that we can have going forward.
All right, next question. Training is a huge liability in law enforcement. How many hours do Park County deputies train, which will be directed at Steve, and how many hours will you establish for training? That one is directed for Ahmet. And Steve, you are going first.
Okay. Training is extremely important. This is a very high liability profession. We have the ability to take away people's freedoms, kind of like we just talked about. We have the ability to infringe on people's rights if we're not doing our job the correct way. And the ultimate thing that we can do in the right circumstances is we have the ability to legally take someone's life. That's huge. And so training is how we make sure that we are doing things the correct way. As far as how many hours of training does the Park County Sheriff's Office get in a year, I can't answer that. It's going to be different for every single person. I can tell you that so far this year, for myself personally, I've logged 32 hours of training. As for each one of our single deputies, I don't know. A lot of it depends on what their interests are and how motivated they are. If they're a deputy who wants a lot of training and they submit a lot of training requests, they're going to get more training hours than someone who kind of doesn't really want to do training all the time anymore. But the law requires, at least for our post-certified deputies, that they receive 24 hours minimum training each year. And of those 24 hours, 12 hours have to be in the perishable skills categories, which are driving, arrest control, and firearms. And on top of that, there has to be at least one training hour in each of those 3 categories. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, our staff meets those standards every year. If we don't, we end up in a situation where we are on probation with post, or I don't know what happens if you go beyond being on probation with post, but that is the first step if your organization is not in compliance with their training standards. Now, this year, it's a challenge for us because the sheriff's office operates off of 2 main budgets, our jail budget and what's called our sheriff's budget, which is our operating budget. And I will follow up on that with my last 30 seconds.
Training is very important in law enforcement. So we're having deputies on the road, and they're the first line. That's the first person you're going to see when you dial 911. So they're going to be coming there. So we need to train those deputies, not only in those 24 hours mandatory training that post requires, which is driving, arrest control tactics, and firearms. We need to train them in de-escalation. And as your sheriff, my first goal is going to be to train and bring the training to Park County in crisis intervention. So that training focuses on de-escalation versus escalation. And we can go about the tactics further down the road with other questions, but I can tell you that well-trained deputy is beneficial not only to the sheriff's office, it's beneficial to the entire community. Currently, in organization that I'm working for, we tally our trainings every year. I'm one of the instructors. So in about November, we get an email saying, hey, which topics would you like to address? Besides those 24 hours, we're addressing standardized field sobriety testing, de-escalation, hostage rescues, you name it, building clearance. It's almost every Wednesday. So our deputies, to include command staff, are lodging about 200 hours of training. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, right now we're facing a tough time on the other side in Summit County. They cut our budget $7 million. We are bare minimum on the staffing. And guess what? Training is still priority. We need to train our people. It doesn't matter how, but we will make it. Even if it means that I'm going to be going on my day off because I work Sunday through Wednesday, and the other group of people comes Wednesday through Saturday to address the training. That's what we do. You just have to make it. Thank you.
Okay, that's a huge budget cut that you suffered, and I'm sorry, I can't even imagine. But talking about training specifically with the Park County Sheriff's Office, our training comes out of our budget in basically 2 different line items. We have a line for training and we have a line for travel. And the reason that we have a line for travel is because a lot of trainings that deputies are interested in and want to do are trainings that happen outside of the county. So for 2026, and let me preface this by saying, we have worked to build this up over the last 7.5 years to increase the amount of money we have for that. Our Board of County Commissioners this year cut both of those training lines and both of those budgets in half.
With the budget cuts that we faced this year, I mean, we are heavily utilizing scholarships. Police officer standard training puts out scholarship. They're paying for our deputies to go to training, which includes travel, hotel, and the cost of the class. And most of the class, we have what we call it I-70 post corridor. We bring instructors and we combine all the agencies, and post pays for that training. So again, grants, scholarships, very important. Even in the budget cuts of $7 million, our training doesn't suffer. Thank you.
this will be, Ahmet, you will start, and this is a two-part question, so I am going to give you guys 3 minutes. What specific things would you change if elected? And what can you promise to do for code enforcement efforts in Park County if elected?
So the first changes are going to be working on reallocation of the budget. We need to pay our deputies more. We need to see where we can save money, even if it means lodging tax, lowering fleet cost. We have a 2,200 square miles to cover. The first change is going to be making sure the deputies are willing to stay here. So we need to pay them. Creation of 3 districts, like I mentioned before, is going to be the first thing. We're going to have a district from Pine to Kenosha. The second one's going to be from Kenosha to Trout Creek, and creation of the new one's going to be including Lake George, Guffey, and Hartselle. So deputies work in those districts, they're going to be assigned to those districts. If we have a critical incident, they're going to be pulled out of the districts, but that's operational decision that's going to be made by supervisor. And we're going to have 1 supervisor for those 3 districts. The other thing is a 48-hour shift. I introduced that 48-hour shift in 2019 or 2020 in Blue River. Meanwhile, Fair Play PD's operating under the same. So it's nothing different than having a small agency covering certain area and having 3 districts with the deputies assigned to those areas. So they're going to be familiar with the areas they're covering. They're going to be familiar with the people who they serve. So they're going to be trusted faces. That's one of my priorities. I'm looking at a budget with the cars, and I know it's a perk for Park County Sheriff's Office to have take-home vehicles. But 2,200 square miles, and if we don't have a districts and they're covering the entire county, what is the mileage they're doing a day? Is it 100 miles? Is it 200 miles? Is it 300 miles? And then they're taking those vehicles home. If they live in the county, I don't have an issue with that. But if they're driving down to Colorado Springs, that's 2 counties over. That's El Paso. You have to go from Park to Teller to El Paso County. How many miles are we putting on those vehicles? What is the lifespan of those vehicles we can have? So those are the most important things. And how much fuel do we spend? I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to come to the numbers where we can pinch the penny. Our budget is what it is. We can't ask for more because there's no more money in it. We have to work within our means. When it comes to the code enforcement, in Summit County, we worked with our development services. We had community service officers. They were employees of the Sheriff's Office. They were not post-certified. So therefore, they were able to enforce the county ordinances and work hand in hand with the development services. If the summonses need to be served, that's what they did. Thank you.
All right, what changes would I make immediately if elected, I think is kind of what the first question there was. And one of them I already talked about. Being more involved with the legislative process, to give you all a voice that I think that we're missing here in Park County. Being involved with the lobbyists that exist, the County Sheriffs of Colorado. County Sheriffs of Colorado is also teamed up with the Chiefs Association within Colorado and the Fraternal Order of Police in Colorado. So we have a reasonably strong lobby for law enforcement, but we can't let that continue to be controlled by the Front Range, which it has been, just like everything else in our state. Our voices here in Park County are not being heard, even though they may be somewhat supportive of us through these organizations that are friendly to law enforcement. So that's one thing. I plan on getting involved with that, and because I can be your sheriff today, I can act as your sheriff today, I know how to step into this role today I can begin this right away. It's not something that's gonna have to wait until I do a bunch of reorganization, or until I get a bunch of staff hired, or until I get a command staff in place and all of these sorts of things. It's something that can happen right now. The next thing is hiring a full-time grant writer, and many of you have heard me talk about this before. There is a lot of money available in grants, and we are not taking advantage of that as an office like we could, and we're not taking advantage of it as a county like we could. So to me, that's something that is very important, and I think it's important that it be a person's job, so that they are as good at it as they can be. They can get us as much money as possible, whether it be local, state, federal monies that are out there to help supplement our budget and not have an impact on Tabor, because that's also very important. The next thing, our short-term rental income. We have a tax that you all voted for that gave us 2% of the sales tax on short-term rentals a couple of years ago, and then you voted again last year to up that to 6%. The sheriff's office currently should get 20% of those funds. And while we don't have a full year's worth of data yet, because we're only in June of this year, it's the first year it's been in effect, by the end of this year we should have a pretty good idea of what type of funding that's going to bring in and how we can utilize that going forward. And for me, mostly that should be to get our wages up and attract people moving here. And the next thing is, I plan on targeting and recruiting people who already live here. And does that mean current law enforcement? Sure, it could. But it also means people that are not currently in law enforcement, but that live in Park County. They already know how to live here. This is not a place that's easy for everybody to live. It's expensive. You have to plan your trips to the grocery store. You might have to have a couple of freezers depending on where you live. You might be off grid. So those are a few of the things that I'll change as your sheriff.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's important to lobby down in the state capitol, but main goal is to meet with my community. I want to listen to your complaints, your comments, and your concerns. That's a primary role, because sheriff works for the community. Sheriff is elected by people and answers to people only. When we talk about grants, like my opponent mentioned, grants existed 7.5 years ago when he came to that office. Why wasn't that done? Why wasn't it done? Thank you.
Okay, in my first 3 minutes, I did not get to the code enforcement part of the question, so I'll try and address that real quickly here. We currently have our patrol lieutenant that is a liaison between the sheriff's office and building and zoning within the county. Are we doing enough? I don't think so, but I also think that our land use regulations, the things with building and zoning that go along with code enforcement, need to be revamped so that they are enforceable. Right now, it is very tricky in the way that a lot of these things are written. They don't make sense to you, and they don't make sense to me.
All right, next question. And this is to both of you, and Steve, you will go first this time. For Steve, what have you done to better the sheriff's office in the last 7.5 years? And Ahmet, what have you done to better the Summit County Sheriff's Office in the last however many years you've worked there?
Would you all be willing to raise your hand if you were here in 2018, if you were a county resident? Okay. Do you remember what the state of the sheriff's office was at the end of 2018 and going into 2019? I do, because I was working there. And so when you ask what I have done in the last 7.5 years, that's a hard question for me, because I haven't done anything by myself. It's been a team effort. It's been a team effort in order for us to rebuild the sheriff's office from what it was at the beginning of 2019. So at the beginning of 2019, the sheriff's office was at approximately 50% staffing. And one of the things that we tried really, really hard not to do was mandatory overtime. And for the most part, we did not have to initiate that. We found other ways to serve the public without ordering our people to come to work every day. And there are agencies that do that, and it's unfortunate. And some people would say that, well, you know, you're in law enforcement, you signed up for that sort of thing. But that is not what we believe, and we don't believe that that fosters the type of environment that we want inside of our agency. So, we've rebuilt this agency. One of the things recently here within the last year and a half is we've built a canine program again within the Park County Sheriff's Office. It's young, but we have 2 great handlers. We have 2 great dogs that are starting to become known statewide, and they are making an impact here in the county. So that's something that I'm proud of. I'm the coordinator of that program. I had the pleasure of being able to start it and build it, being a former canine handler as a younger law enforcement officer. And so I'm proud of that. The other thing is we managed the COVID pandemic, and I know that seems like forever ago, but this was something that none of us had ever seen, and we kept you all, our staff, and our inmates safe during that time.
Well, as a supervisor in my agency, my main goal is to develop new leaders. My goal is to make sure that once I leave tomorrow, somebody can step up and take my position. That's the most important thing in law enforcement. Mentorship new deputies, watching them grow from the day they put the uniform on, strap the belt on, to the moment where they jump into the supervisory role. Building trust with your community, it's very important. If your community trusts you, your job is easy. And if you have support from that community, it's even easier. So, like I said, building and developing new leaders, it's my major task. That's what I've been tasked with, and I'm proud to say that in the last 2 years, I mentored 2 people who became supervisors, and I mentored 3 others who became field training officers. In my organization, that comes with a promotion. As a field training officer, you're getting promotion, you get a title of the technician. So it's a natural step going from a deputy to field training officer, ultimately to supervisor. That's what we need to focus here. In addition to that, we need to think about deputies and their well-being. Mental health is very important. What I tell every deputy is your family comes first. They do have families. This is a life of sacrifice. Law enforcement is a life of sacrifice. You're gonna miss birthdays, you're gonna miss Christmases, Thanksgiving dinners. How do we manage and balance that? So if they're putting for time off, as a supervisor, even if I'm short-staffed, I will give my staff time off and I will work that shift. Thank you.
A couple of things I really like there. And I think this goes along with the question. My favorite part about being in the role of undersheriff is that I have the ability to impact the life of our staff. And wrapping this back up into the training question, I have the ability to sit down with our folks, find out what they're interested in, and help them reach their goals within this profession. So that's something else that I guess I've done over the last 7.5 years that is really important to me, is their development.
If we have a strong leadership, we're going to have a strong department. I will bring you strong leadership because I tell every deputy that ever worked for me or every officer that ever worked for me, I will never ask you to do something I am not willing to do. So if we have that trust between command and the line, there is nothing we can't accomplish. Thank you so much.
All right, won't be our last for this. We'll let them take a rest after this question. So, Ahmet, you get to go first. Wildfire is a big concern this year because of the lack of snowpack we had this year. And we've had a little bit of rain, but I know the fields are dry. Do you have an idea of how you handle fire evacuation in areas in the county that are one way in and one way out? And we will use County Road 43 corridor as an example. Thank you.
Well, Clark County is not the only county that's going to face wildfire dangers. The entire state will do it. So what we've done in the past, it's aggressive messaging system to our community. Aggressive meetings with our community, meaning we meet with the community. We have a contingency plan for the saving lives as well as livestock. So it's an effort that will combine sheriff's office, patrol deputies, even the jail staff. That's what we've done on the other side of the pass, to include animal control for your livestock. So the plan, how we're going to evacuate that, is setting priorities. And priorities are done on the tabletop exercises. And I don't know, I'm not familiar with the Park County, how many tabletop exercises they have done this year, how they prepared, but I can tell you that in Summit County, we have weekly meetings with the fire departments, and then includes local fire departments, National Forest Service, and even a hotshot crew. So having those meetings and coming with contingency plan is very important. Messaging to our community. I think you guys have a SE alert here. Besides SE alert, we introduce iPods in Summit County. So not only goes to our resident, it goes to everybody. If we are having fire like we had at the Buffalo Mountain a couple of years back, our alerts are going to that area where we needed to evacuate. So that was our priorities. Our deputies play a big role in it. I'm not going to say that the sheriff's office are going to, deputies or sheriff, they're going to go fight the fire. We are there to provide support to our fire departments, which means we have to help with the evacuation. We need to check every home. And when it comes even with the County Road 43, closure and getting everybody out of that area is a priority. Blue River, there's only one way in and one way out. That's Highway 9. That's what we did over there. Thank you.
Well, this is a real concern for some of you in this room. I know some of you live on County Road 43 in this room. And one way in, one way out, I think means maybe something different to you all than it does to others. What that means is there's one way in and then there's nothing. So that is the route that is in and out. It is one way. It doesn't go anywhere, and that is one of the struggles that we see on County Road 43. Some of our biggest subdivisions, if you start with Mill Iron D, and then you have Friendship Ranch, and then you have to think about things like Camp Idrahaji. You have to think about Deer Creek Christian Camp. You have to think about Tomahawk Ranch. And then as you work your way up through the valley, you get to the Deer Creek Valley Ranchos and KZ Ranch and Elk Creek Highlands and Elk Creek Meadows and back into Harris Park. All of these different communities only have one way in and one way out on County Road 43. And that is super important. But we're also super fortunate because we have Platte Canyon Fire Protection District, which is an outstanding group of very competent individuals who have developed all sorts of evacuation plans for that road, or plans that are to shelter in safe areas. Like, for example, if you come down Hangman's Road to County Road 43, there's that dry lake bed right now. That is a place that would be suitable to shelter in place in the event of a wildfire if you can't evacuate. But the important thing is to remember that this is not going to be just the sheriff's office and the fire department. We are going to have Colorado State Patrol involved. We're going to have Public Works involved. Our volunteers are going to be involved. Because what we have to do if we have a major fire event on County Road 43 is turn that into a two-lane, one-way road coming out. And that may be difficult for some of you to swallow who might not be able to get home. but we have to get the people out because in a wildfire, priority number 1 is life safety. Priority number 2 is the safety of property. Thank you.
I'm going to give you personal experience here. I worked troublesome fire in Grand County. I watched the home burns. I watched people begging us to go back to their homes. They lost everything. And I can tell you, it takes a special person to sit on that roadblock to make sure the human life is not lost. And with Park County, the way we sit here, the priority is to have enough time to give that alert because fires are moving fast. And I watched Black Mountain burn across 285 where I live, and that was very fast. Thank you.
So to follow up with like Platte Canyon Fire, we run coordinated evacuation drills that are voluntary for our residents. There's not one planned yet for this year. Those are typically done in the fall. So something for you guys to keep your ears out for that could be beneficial to help you in a fire evacuation. As far as notifications, Code Red and IPAWS, and a unified command is something that's going to be very important once the evacuation's start to go. And that's something that I've done for you folks for years as your undersheriff.
All right, we're gonna let them take a rest, maybe get a drink of water or something. And Wally, a question for you, for commissioner candidates, and we only have one here today. Is it important to attend public events, and how do you plan on engaging with the people you represent in the county?
It's absolutely important to come and talk to you folks. Here I am. Unfortunately, my opponent is not here. It's been kind of a lonely road, but that's who I am, that's who I will be. Transparency, an open door, a phone call, an email, anything you folks want to talk about. I'm there to talk to you, listen, and pass it on to the to the other commissioners. It's a little bit of a tough road to hoe though, because there's this sunset law, which means we cannot talk to each other as commissioners. We have to do it in public. So we get a schedule on Friday about what's going to happen on Tuesday. We can look at it individually on our own, and then be ready for the work session on Tuesday morning, where we can talk to each other publicly because you're invited. You can show up, you can do Zoom, and then in the afternoon we have the votes on certain things where we decide yes or no. Two to one, 3-0 in favor, against. So it's a little bit of an interesting job, position, if you will. But it's something that we study on our own, get together on the Tuesday, talk to each other about it, and then decide, on that same Tuesday afternoon to either vote or postpone it, push it out a week or two, whatever. After we've taken all of our information that we can from the 15 departments that we are basically in charge of manning, all those people, we decide who jumps in, who jumps out. We replace people all the time. And it's an extremely important job because those 15 different boards guide this county in the direction we go and how fast we do it. There's only one board that we don't have any control over, and that's the Board of Assessments. When they come up with, that's the board that talks about building plans, distances of sidewalks, those kinds of things. Those things are set in stone, and those can only be changed in a district court. But we do have some input with all the other 14 boards, and they range from, there's actually an equestrian board here at Berlin, environmental, 15 boards total, and we're in charge of them. It's a huge challenge. Can I have a minute of my opponent's time?
No.
30 seconds?
No?
All right.
30 seconds,
All right.
but
I'll talk more about that later. Thank you.
Amy, I know that wasn't a trick question.
back to
You
you
wanna answer
guys. We'll get back to you next. Okay, Cindy, we have a question for you. For the assessor, what do you plan to do different than your opponent who is the current assessor?
What I plan to do different is to make sure that my employees are happy with where they're at, that they're getting the education that they are required to get. They're supposed to go within 2 years of being hired, they're supposed to be getting their appraisal licenses, so I expect them to be able to do that. And I want them to be willing to say, hey, I need your help here, and I want to be able to help and really lead those employees and then make it a super positive experience. I also want to make a difference when you guys come into the office and want to talk. I want you to be able to talk to anybody in that office and they can answer your question. I want them to be friendly and that you feel comfortable asking them questions. I'd also like to be able to train you all on how the tax gets assessed, or at least explain how how to figure your taxes out, or actually provide that for you, but help our senior citizens, help our veterans who get discounts, help them know what they have to fill out, how they need to file if they want to file an appeal, and various things like that. I want to be there for you guys. I'm a tax shield. I'm not a revenuer. I'm not trying to gain as much money for the county. I want to be fair and equitable. Yes, I have to do exactly what the courts or what the statutes say I need to. Thank you.
All right, this is going to be a lightning round, like 30 seconds each, because they're really quick questions. Where are all of you currently making income? So we'll just go through the Met and go down. Where are you currently making income? All the income sources you have. 30 seconds.
Currently, my income comes from the Summit County government. That's who I work for, and I have some investments. That's where I make my income.
Currently, my answer is the same, but here in Park County. So I work for you all, I work for the Park County government. Like I've said before, I'm your undersheriff, and that's where all of my personal income comes from currently.
Right now, I'm a real estate broker. I've been a broker for 25 years with my own company. Used to be able to sell in any state that touched Colorado, so I could sell in all those places. Right now, it's just the state of Colorado, and I can do that anywhere in the state of Colorado. I'm a retired baseball umpire, so I don't do that anymore, but I do train umpires on occasion. I train the Highlands Ranch group, and I do get a small amount of money for that. But other than that, it's real estate.
I get my money from real estate too. I'm a realtor up here and in Denver. Again, I can do it anywhere in the state of Colorado. I also get income from our rental property that is down in Denver. We rent that full-time down there, and that provides us with income as well.
All right, thank you. The rest of these questions are all pointed to a specific candidate. So let me see if I can make them a little bit broader. All right, this one, this goes to land use regulations. So Wally?
Sure.
Land use regulations are part of what commissioners do in having public hearings regarding conditional use permits and all of that. Provide your interpretation of land use regulations and how they make a difference in the county, and is it important for commissioners to follow and adhere to them?
Sure.
Land use regulations are extremely important. It's how we provide a standard of living to people when they moved up here and want to enjoy that standard of living. If you're in Valley of the Sun and you've got a short-term rental on each side and one behind you, that's something we as commissioners have to look at to make sure that person's quality of life is what we promised them. And it's a tough call. You know, we might have somebody who works from midnight to 8 a.m. in their garage and is keeping people awake and stuff like that. We've had some issues like that in the past. But the land use scenario is meant to so that everybody can live the kind of life that we've sort of promised them when they moved up here. And those rules and regulations they're set in stone, but you know, we as commissioners, we have to work around those and try to do the best we can to afford that situation to everybody in the county.
All right, this will go to the sheriffs. Let's see, we are at Steve, you are gonna go first this time. Park County has a low conviction rate, but also it is believed that it has a minimal criminal activity. And then Steve, if you could address this specifically, how do you go about making sure cases can be properly prosecuted, and how come Maggie's case has been so hard to solve?
Okay. First of all, something occurred to me on my last question. I also receive a small stipend from the school district for coaching, so I wanted to clear that up. Didn't really occur to me because I think it costs me more to coach than I make doing it, but it's definitely worth it. So, low conviction rate in Park County. Yes, we do have a low conviction rate in Park County. And I do not want to stand up here in front of you and throw the district attorney's office under the bus. So I am not going to do that, but that is something that we struggle with on a daily basis. Cases being dismissed. Cases being dismissed. And the reason that these cases are being dismissed, well, generally they are a mystery to us. So while we might have a hand in that, we don't know, and we've been working with the district attorney's office. They have a very high turnover rate within the Park County office, and we haven't been able to get consistent information from them on what we could do better to increase our successful prosecutions. Low criminal activity in Park County. Park County has about the same crime rates as anywhere else in the state per capita. Maybe that's gone up because crime across Colorado has gone up for sure. But I think where this question is pointed is why can't we find this data? And it goes back to a question that I answered earlier about the uniform crime reporting. So Park County looks, if you look at federal statistics, it looks safer than it actually is. That will change as these reports are filed consistently and data is accumulated, and it will be more accurately represented. Maggie Long. Still an open investigation. And so while I can't share details of that investigation with you, the question was, why has it been so difficult to solve? And the easiest way to answer that question is because nobody is talking about it. We have investigated thousands upon thousands of tips that have not led us to a suspect that we can arrest for the murder of Maggie Long to this point.
I just attended 2-day, well, it was a 1-day instructor research down in Colorado Springs, and I had the pleasure that one of my presenter at that training was actually a prosecutor from Park County. So, are you going to say it's a sheriff's office fault or is it DA's fault? Well, it's usually a combination of both. As a sheriff for the Park County, I can tell you that I will focus on well-written reports, dual control. It has to be established procedure how we do this. Deputies write reports, they go to sergeants for approval before they even touch records. making sure that we follow criminal procedures. With a criminal procedure, making sure that we didn't violate anybody's law, anybody's rights. We didn't violate any laws associated with those rights, and we need to preserve all the evidence. Everybody familiar here with the Senate Bill 217, accountability for law enforcement that came out? Well, the biggest thing that came out of that, body-worn cameras. We need to make sure that we have established procedure and aggressively enforce those procedures so we don't put sheriff's office in a bad spot by saying, hey, my deputy forgot to tap the button. In addition to body-worn camera, we need to focus on dash cameras in the vehicles. So when people have issues saying, you're pulling me over for this, for weaving, for failure to use turn signal, we have a prima facie evidence. The camera is recording all the time. With my current organization that I work for, every time you touch any lights in the car, it lights up the car, but it lights up your body-worn camera and the dash camera. And we can rebuff it minute back. So we capture driving behavior, we capture everything. So enforcing those policies, very important. We can get a higher conviction rate. Thank you.
So I would just like to go back to the latter part of that question and touch a little bit more on Maggie Long, because that's something that impacted many of us very, very heavily and still continues to do so. There's been a lot of talk in social media and the community about this case, and one thing that I can tell you is it is still being actively investigated. It's moved now because of the length of time that it's been to the cold case squad with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, but they have an agent that is assigned only to this case. And there is a task force that is working on this case every single day, and I am very optimistic that we will have a resolution sometime soon.
Like Steve said, with the Maggie Long case, it's a high-profile case. It's been down to a cold case file right now. What I would ensure as your Park County Sheriff is, in addition to CBI and the task force that's there, making sure that one of our investigators is involved in it, so we have our current updates. I am not going to come out here and going to say, I know everything about the case. No, I don't. There's the evidence, and in every criminal cases, there's certain things they cannot be released to the public. But having somebody on that task force from the Park County Sheriff's Office is very important. Thank you.
All right. One more for sheriffs. What would you do, or what is proper protocol when there is a resident and or business that does not have plates on a vehicle?
Well, that will fall under the Title 42, which is a traffic code. Okay. Traditionally, what do when we're not busy? We pull traffic over. Sometimes people don't have time to put those plates on. You pull the vehicle that doesn't have a plate. It's happened to me a million times. And I would have this lady in the car saying, I never touched my plates. I don't know where to put my stickers on. That's where the community service comes in. That's where customer service comes in. I have so many times grab my multi-tool and attach those plates on the car. If they don't have a plates on the car, what is the reason behind it? Did they just purchase the vehicle? You know, there's a law that says you have 72 hours before you even register the vehicles. So the only thing you have to provide insurance, and if they provide me insurance for any other vehicle that they own, that insurance, and by the law, is good in my eyes. They don't have to have insurance for their specific vehicles. So they have a 72 hours to transfer vehicle from the place of sale to their homes. What else do we have? I mean, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if this is a big problem in Park County, but unsheltered ones, they use their vehicles as their home. We have that in Summit County on every corner. Me taking that vehicle away from that person means I'm taking their home. What is that going to happen to that person? There's a human side to everything we do here. It comes to the sound judgment. What is the severity of the crime? If we need to enforce it, if we need to write somebody up for the expired plates, you know the new law on the expired plates. You have 90 days from the moment that you receive your ticket right now to register your car, and all the charges are dropped. I hope this answers your question. Thank you.
So, proper protocol, and not having license plates on a vehicle, I believe, is a Class B traffic infraction. And what that means is the threshold of that offense is very, very low. So in our system here in Colorado, you have a Class 1 felony, that's murder. That's murder with intent at the very top. Down to a Class 6, and then you have 2 classes of misdemeanors now. You have petty offenses, you have traffic offenses, you have traffic misdemeanors, and then all the way down there at the bottom are these Class A and B traffic infractions. And years ago, I can remember when we had the authority to tow a vehicle that was on public property if it didn't have registration on it. Our state has changed very much in the 22 years that I've been doing this. That's not something that we have the authority to do anymore. And I don't know if it's because we may be dealing with homeless people and taking away their home, or if it's just because our state has gone so soft on crime, and maybe you don't agree that that's a crime. Okay, we could argue that. But our state has gone so soft on things that there just aren't, there aren't ways to hold people accountable for things like this. So, if someone doesn't have a license plate on their vehicle, evidence right here, okay? This is why I stopped the tandem dump truck on Monday. I could not see a plate. I would have bet maybe a half a paycheck that it did not have a license plate on it. Could not see one, so I contacted the truck. And it come to find out, it's a dump truck, so the plate had been bent up clearly underneath of it, right? So it's not exactly what we're talking about, but that's what it appeared to be at the time. Gave me legal justification to contact the truck. Now, it turns out that the plates were expired, which I dealt with when I talked to the driver, but again, it's a very, very low-level offense here in Colorado that law enforcement doesn't have much that they can do with.
And no license plate, like Steve said, traffic infraction. We can write as many tickets as we want. I can tell you, we've written so many no driver's license tickets. You would think that's a bigger offense. When it goes to the district attorney's office, they're all dismissed. So prosecution is not part of our job. Our job is to do our due diligence. When it goes to the district attorneys, our hands are tied there. Thank you.
So, just a little bit more on that. We have a lot of discretion as law enforcement. There are very few laws in Colorado revised statutes that say shall, but they do exist. Shall arrest, shall do this, shall do that. Most of them we have discretion on, and in a lot of cases like these, education is the key. People don't know where to put the stickers on their license plate, even though there's a picture on the envelope that tell you, right? So a lot of what we do is trying to get voluntary compliance, and if we can get voluntary compliance versus punitive compliance, that's the way we should be going.
All right, I have 2 questions for Commissioner, so you might as well just stand up and then I'll ask them both.
Okay.
First one is, as a former geologist, what ways can you help interpret land use code, particularly mining operations, to build property on decommissioned mines?
Sure. So for the first 25 years of my career, I worked for Union Pacific Railroad's Mining Corporation. Geotechnical exploration and mine evaluation. So drilling rigs, geologic mapping, that type of work. And it's extremely helpful in just the everyday stuff that happens in our county, especially, and a good example would be Wild Horse. When I first saw the initial placement of Wild Horse, it kind of struck me as not really being in the correct spot. They did move it a little bit, so now they only have to implement one dam, and now as commissioners we have to decide how we want to react to making that happen in our best interest. There's going to be possibly a boom-bust scenario. Booms are great, but busts are really tough to pull out of, especially after a boom like that. But as far as the land use situation goes, as a commissioner, we are held to the land use codes just like you folks are. We can tell you guys what you have to do. We have to perform just like everybody else, and maybe even a step above. If there's a permit that we have to have, we need to pull that permit. We don't go on with a business and ignore that permit and just, the county didn't get back to me. That's not the answer. The answer is we have to step in and hunt down why we don't have that permit and not just keep running a business, those types of scenarios. On the big picture, you have, if you want a 50-room hotel, those land use situations come into effect. If you want to increase your driveway so you can turn your semi-truck around and it infringes on somebody else's property, that's every bit as important. But we have to foster the land use people and all the other incremental companies that we deal with within our government, make sure they do the right thing.
All right, and this is do you agree with your opponent bartendering during these forums?
Absolutely not. We should be here doing what we're doing right now, talking to you folks and letting you know what's going on. Yeah. It's all about priorities. Cindy and I have a mom who's 95 years old. She's in California. We got the schedule. We morphed our schedule so that we could make every one of these. And it's unfortunate that my opponent doesn't feel the same way. Thank you.
All right, we'll have this one be the last one for the sheriffs, and then we'll have our closing arguments, our closing pitch. And let's see, Steve, you are up first. As undersheriff, what challenges prevented the changes you wanted to make, and how would having the authority of sheriff allow you to address those issues differently? And we'll spin it for Ahmet as sheriff, what authority will you have to make the changes you want to make?
All right, so you all are here to listen to us talk because you are the ones who are going to hire us, whoever that ends up being. You are the ones who are hiring for these positions, for sheriff, for commissioner, for assessor. So you're hiring the head of the organization, the sheriff, in the case of our race right here. They are accountable to you, and it is their job to hire down within the ranks. Maybe the first thing they do is appoint an undersheriff. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It probably depends on the sheriff. But while the undersheriff is the number 2 within the organization, the undersheriff is not the person that you all hired, and it never will be the person that you hired. You're not hiring an undersheriff. This is the sheriff's job. It is a statutory requirement of their office. And so the way that I see that as an undersheriff is My job as the number 2 within an organization is to support the sheriff. It is to get his ideas, and it is to do my best to execute them to the best of my ability, provided they are not illegal and they are not unethical. And so, while Sheriff McGraw and I have a great relationship, and I can assure you that we banter back and forth with one another respectfully and often, because we disagree on a great many things, at the end of the day, when he as the sheriff makes a decision that is legal and ethical, it is my job to execute that decision. So maybe that has stood in the way of me being able to do some of the things that I would like to do with the sheriff's office, but that's why I'm running for sheriff now, because while I've learned a ton, and I've had a lot of great opportunities to influence people, especially within our organization, I've been the doer, and now I look forward to the opportunity to be the one with the ideas.
As a sheriff, you have way more authority, but it comes to the team. That is the importance of having undersheriff who is willing to disagree with those policies. They're not good. So I've already chosen who my undersheriff is going to be. Great opportunity for Fairplay side, great opportunity for Bailey side. We're going to have representation on both sides of the pass. So that would only benefit our community. And then we're going to switch. I'm going to be weak in Fairplay. My undersheriff's going to be weak in Bailey. I'm going to switch. I'm going to go to Bailey. He's going to go to Fairplay. That's how we build community trust. In addition to this, what changes I can make? I can make changes in internal policies right away. Making my policies and the sheriff's office policies readily available to our community members so they can see how the internal process works. I think that's a transparency. That's what you're looking for. It's the transparency and accountability for your sheriff's office. There's nothing here to be hidden. You're choosing your next sheriff. Like I always say, this is not going to be my office. It is your office. And building a strong team starts with undersheriff, who's going to be able to further those policies and implement them with the rest of the sheriff's office. That is very important. We need to make ourselves accountable. If I'm doing something wrong, or we get the reports of misconduct, we can launch our supervisory inquiry. But if it's true misconduct, I really don't believe that cops should be policing cops. We would hire an independent investigator and address that. Thank you.
So I'm fortunate on this question that I've been doing this for 7.5 years, and I know every undersheriff in the state of Colorado, and I've known every undersheriff within the state of Colorado in that amount of time. In some agencies, it's a revolving door. It's different everywhere. Even in similar sized agencies, this role is different, and it depends on the sheriff and what they need from their undersheriff and what they want from their undersheriff. And as I told you, Sheriff McGraw and I, we have had many, many disagreements. But at the end of the day, I was hired to execute his plans as the Park County Undersheriff. And like I said, as long as they were legal and as long as they were ethical, that's what I've done.
I kind of answered the second part of this question. Part of my job is to work with the Board of County Commissioners. My job is to work with every other department. If we can have that cohesive unit where your Park County government works together, there's nothing we can't accomplish. So if we have that strong relationship among ourselves, among our other departments and the Board of County Commissioners, I think we can accomplish that very easily. And like I said, transparency and accountability starts at the top. Thank you.
got one more we can end, because we're scheduled here till 6. This is, Ahmet, you are next up. Are there deputies working out on the road 24 hours a day? Yes or no? And if no, how are you going to make that happen?
So my understanding right now with the sheriff's office, they have a coverage till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then they go on call between 2 and 6. I don't have issue with that concept at all. But we need to ask ourselves, when they are on call, and they get that call, because emergency, they don't pick and choose time where we're gonna get it. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from within Park County? Or are they coming from outside of Park County? What is their estimated time of arrival? How am I gonna address that? Like I said before, 48-hour shifts, having districts and having deputies for 48 hours in that district. It doesn't mean they're working 48 hours constantly. We need to address the problem strategically, and we need to use data to see what is our crime trend, how are we going to address the crime, what are our peak hours. My first job is to bring somebody to do total statistic over the sheriff's office and their response to the calls. What is their time, response time when they get called, when they're on call? How long does it take them to get there? What resources do we have here? If they're working 48 hours and they're in their district, it's nothing different than your fire departments. This is not a new concept, ladies and gentlemen. They're in the districts. It's going to take them, I measured that in my previous agency, about 7 to 10 minutes to get to the call, to get in a car and get to the call. I think it's a great benefit for the community, great benefit for the sheriff's office, employees, is what we need to invest in. Well-being of our employees, it's 100% what I'm going to be standing behind. 48-hour schedule has been proven to reduce stress, more time with the family, and well-being of our biggest asset, and those are our employees. Thank you.
You're pretty close. Currently, our patrol deputies are on call from 2:30 in the morning until 6:30 in the morning. And it's not like we just flipped a coin and said, this is the time of day that we're going to do this. A lot went into this, and interestingly enough, it hasn't changed that much in the last 15 years. This is similar to a schedule that was run in the county here 15 years ago. But I anticipated a question very much like this today. So on Thursday, before I came home from work, I looked at the calls for service for the last week between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. There were 4. None of those were emergency calls. None of them. And by emergency calls, what I mean by that is where there is life safety at risk, property at risk, or some medical type situation where they would need assistance from a deputy sheriff. And so, while that's obviously not the case every single day, every single week, there is a method to the madness here. And so, I guess I would have to question, is it worth paying, I don't know, how many deputies is that? Is that 3? Is it 6 under this 48-hour plan for a period of time where the public doesn't need our help? I don't know. But a fire department is completely reactive. And we can't be that way in law enforcement. And I know there's been talk about being proactive, but how can you be proactive when you're set up like a reactive agency? There's some things about this schedule that don't make sense to me. To me, I think you need at least 6 more deputies than we're allocated for to make that schedule work. And it might work very well if we had 6 more deputies, but where does the funding come for the 6 more deputies? I don't know. We have had 24-hour coverage within Park County until winter of this year, actually until the end of December of this year, We worked 12-hour shifts that backed up against each other. So you had a deputy working 12 hours and then another one coming on to relieve them working the next 12 hours. Does that work? Yes, but I believe with the needs of our agency for not only training and to reduce overtime, the way that the schedule is now, and it works well and it's supported by data.
This is what I believe in. When you dial 911, for you, it is emergency. There is no call too small that you have to answer. We cannot assume whether it's an in-progress call or not. When you dial 911, you want somebody to show up at your door because you need help. That's what it comes to. 48 hours doesn't create overtime. We can easily control with it. And when I say proactive versus reactive, what is the time of the day that we need to see our deputies? When the schools are getting in, when our kids are getting out of schools, traffic that's moving into the county. So having the rest time after 2 a.m. and still being in your district, again, it's a benefit for our community and for our deputies. Thank you.
So when I talked about this last week, I said nothing about 911 calls because these were not 911 calls. And so, yes, when you call 911, somebody answers the phone. They always have, and they always will. And if you need a response because there is an emergency, someone will be coming to help you. And I think that's been a misconception of something that's happened in the county over the last few years. There has always been somebody on the other end of the phone, and there has always been somebody to come and help in the event of an emergency.
Okay, that concludes our questions. Hold on, working two boxes. So we are going to have closing remarks. So we will, we're going to go down the row this way. We're going to start with Cindy, Wally, Steve, and Ahmet. Got 3 minutes.
Thanks again, everybody, for coming. I hope that you will vote for me for this in the primary, which is June 30th. I believe I will do an excellent job for you. I would love to get rid of all your property taxes. That won't happen, but that would be my drive and something I would love to see happen. But we will try to see what we can do to help you manage through that process and evaluate your properties accurately and fairly. Nobody will get any kind of benefit because they know me. It'll be exactly how it needs to be. And the statutes that keep coming down for the Golden Dome will be followed. I understand some of them haven't been. And I hope that the people that work for me would be very happy working for me and that I could keep the retention. Right now there's a 270% turnover, 30% per year, and that's just not a good rate of losing employees and getting employees hired back on. So, and then we need to stop the bleed as far as contractors. That keeps us in compliance right now because we don't have people that can do the job, but my plan is that they would be that people would get the certification and that they would be able to then fulfill that requirement, and we can stop hiring contractors and stop the bleed. So I'm Cindy Weld, and I hope you'll vote for me on June 30th. Thank you.
I'll echo what everybody's saying up here. Thank you for coming. It's extremely important. The commissioner's in charge of the budget. That's a huge scenario. My job with the mining corporations, we developed budgets from the ground up. We were an exploration company. So we didn't have a budget where we would add $50,000 every year to the next year and move on down the road. We had to develop them from the ground up, and we did a pretty good job of staying within budget. I think the scenario where we bring in everybody from all of these different areas, the land use, the equestrian, I think we have to trust our judgment in bringing those people in And as far as the mining situation goes, we turn that over to developmental services. We let them decide what the issues are, following those rules and regulations that we have established. I'm vice president of the Central Colorado Water Conservancy District. I've been a board member for 2 years, and about 10 months ago I was asked to step up into the vice president's role because because I do live in the county. You can bring people in if they don't live in the county, if they have the education and the experience and the knowledge, but we prefer that they have some property here so that they're vested in this company. I just want to be transparent. I want to offer you guys a phone call, an email, anything you want to do. I promise I will listen to you. I will get back to you, and I will let you know why I voted in a certain fashion. You have to remember there's a ton of things that happen that nobody else is privy to other than the commissioners and us folks up here. But I will go to every length to find out the best way, the best reason why to vote yay or nay. If I have to pull in the police department, find out if they can be of assistance in helping me make that decision, I'll call anybody and everybody I can to try to do the best for the most people in this county. I'm Wally Weld, Commissioner District 3. Thank you very much.
All right, again, I'm Steve Spodiak. I would really urge you to vote for me in the primary. And I think besides my knowledge, my training, my experience, which go to my website, grab a flyer on your way out if you're interested in that stuff and you haven't heard me talk about it, but my knowledge of the county. Hopefully I shared a little bit of that with you in talking about County Road 33 and the subdivisions along there and the potential issues that come out of an evacuation in that area. But I also have a very good understanding of how county government works here in Park County. And so one of my slogans from the very beginning has been ready day one, and that is absolutely true. I'm actually acting as your county sheriff right now because Sheriff McGraw is not available. So I'm ready day one. I am ready to be your sheriff right now. And I think that you need a sheriff who is ready right now on day one, and a sheriff who has community involvement, which I have. And I haven't had an opportunity to talk about that a whole lot today, but there was a question to the commissioner candidate that I would have liked to have been able to answer. I think community meetings are important, and I don't know exactly what type of community meetings the question asker was referring to, but yes, you have to be involved in your communities. And when I'm standing in for the sheriff, whether it's today or just at his appointment to go do something, I do attend community meetings that revolve around law enforcement, and I think they're very important and instrumental. Something else that I hope that you've realized is that I've answered your questions. The questions that have been asked, I have answered them, and I will continue to do that. I've answered them consistently, and I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. That's not the person that I am at all. I will tell you exactly what I think and the way that it is every time. This campaign has been a little bit nasty, and I think we're about ready to be at the end of it here, and I think it's safe to speak for both of us here. But I also want you to know that I have focused on the positive here, because that's who I am, and I don't believe that negativity will find solutions. Positivity is how we solve our problems, and positivity is how we work together. So I urge you on June 30th or before, when you cast your vote for the Republican candidate for sheriff, vote with your head and vote with your heart. Do not vote based on emotion, because that's what this is all getting wrapped up in, and that's when bad decisions are made. So again, I'm Steve Spodiak, Park County Sheriff. Thank you very much for your time today. I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
I totally agree with Steve when it comes to being at the end of this. It was a great learning experience. I want to thank you, everyone here, for being here today. And I want to thank this group of people being in front of you today. I think it's very important for us to have this clear communication with our community. Let's face it, You all heard what my platform is going to be. But to get to that platform, we need to offer a solution. If we don't acknowledge that we have a problem, we cannot have solution for nothing. As of right now, looking back at this administration, the problems are just piling up. We're talking about a closed jail. We're talking about the retention. And I'm not going to even go in other things that are going in the county. We need to work together. That's what I stand for. I will have clear expectations for the sheriff's office. And those expectations are going to be reinforced with us as your sheriff, my undersheriff, and the entire administration, providing clear goals by providing motivation, purpose, and directions to accomplish those goals. First and foremost, your voice matters. When I say about a community involvement, my goal is to create advisory boards for the sheriff in all parts of the county. My goal is to meet with our community on every week basis where we can look at the issues that we're facing, where I can take the notes, take it back to the sheriff's office, give it to the administration, and come up with a plan how to address those issues. And the issues that we're addressing, guess what? They're going to be addressed in our next week meeting, where we all going to sit together and say, this is the problem, this is what we did, and this is our solution. There is no greater cause than working together with your community. That's what I believe in, and I believe in transparency and accountability. I will make my goal to establish a clear portal on the sheriff's office page where all our complaints are going to be taken. I'm vouching this to you that I will be looking in those complaints, whether they are sustained or not, and I will provide you with the outcome, whether it's a supervisory inquiry or internal investigation. We work for you, and we represent this community. We need to have highest moral, ethical, and professional standards. That's what I stand for. And I'm asking you for your vote as your next Park County Sheriff. Clearly, I have a solution for you. My name is Ahmed Sisek. I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm sure the candidates will be willing to hang around and answer any one-on-ones, but have a great Saturday evening and travel safe. There's a lot of traffic out there,
Oh, yes.
so be safe.